Welcome to the turning point. The moment the shadows stopped clawing at your back, the moment you blinked and unknowingly stepped out of the path of something ancient, something cold, something that was coming for you, with teeth and silence and timing, so perfect, it almost looked like fate. But it wasn't fate that saved you. It was you. It was that single decision you made, that shift, that action, that something told me to do it this way, move, and maybe it felt small. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it felt random. But hear this, it wasn't random, and it wasn't small. It was everything. Because what you didn't see, what you couldn't have seen, was the trap snapping shut behind you, just seconds too late. The storm passing one street over, the betrayal that never landed, the deal you almost said yes to, the place you almost walked into, the call you almost answered, the one thing, that one thing that would have changed you to something you could never walk away from. That one move, that tiny flicker of inner voice, that sudden decision to turn left instead of right, to say no instead of yes, to pause instead of rush. That moment just rerouted your destiny, and you didn't even know it. Let me make this clear. You were not just lucky. You were not just spared. You were not saved by coincidence. You were protected by something deeper. Call it your instinct. Call it divine intelligence. Call it ancestral wisdom woven into your bones. But it was real, and it saw what was coming before you did. There are forces in this life, heavy ones, dark ones. They wait in the quiet. They wait for you to get tired, to get careless, to get comfortable. They don't need to shout. They just need you to slip, just once. And the moment you do, they're there. They don't need a grand entrance. They come in whispers, in slow compromises, in, I'll just do it this once. In, this doesn't really matter. In silence, in distraction, in hesitation. And last week, you were standing at the very edge of it, closer than you've ever been. So close you didn't even feel it. But it was there, coiled and ready. And you didn't walk away. You didn't retreat. You moved. You chose. And that choice, whether you made it with full awareness or just a gut pull, was loud enough to shake the grip of something dark, something hungry, something that doesn't stop chasing once it locks on. People think darkness arrives like a horror movie, loud, obvious, dramatic. But most of the time, it comes in comfort. It comes in the disguise of a better opportunity, a shortcut, a new distraction, a lie that sounds close enough to truth that you accept it. That's when it's most dangerous. When it feels easy, when it feels safe, when it doesn't feel like danger at all. And you were inches away from it. It had already started reaching for you, already picked up your scent, and then you made that one move, and it couldn't follow you. It couldn't reach, because that move wasn't just physical. It was spiritual. It was alignment. It was timing, meeting intuition. And it shut a door behind you that can't be opened again. You want to know how close it was? Let's just say, if you hadn't moved, you would have woken up one morning and nothing would have looked wrong. But inside, everything would have shifted. You would have started second-guessing yourself. You would have started losing sleep, losing drive, losing direction. And you wouldn't even know why, because that's how darkness works. It unravels you quietly, layer by layer, until one day you wake up and realize you're not even yourself anymore. But that's not your story, because you moved, because you listened, because something inside you still has fight, still has vision. still refuses to be taken out before your time. And that matters. It means you're still in the game, still in the war, still alive on a level that most people have already given up on. And now you're here, reading this, not by accident, not by chance, but because your soul knows it's time to wake up fully, to stop sleeping on your own power, to stop doubting the weight of your decisions. Because that one move wasn't just about last week. It was a test, a setup for what's coming next. See, darkness doesn't give up. It just regroups. It just changes shape. It'll come back around with a new mask, a new temptation, a new reason to pause, a new reason to say yes when you should say no, a new reason to let your guard down. But now you've seen it. Now you know how real this is. That decision you made, that was proof. Proof that you're ready to be more than just a survivor. Proof that you're stepping into the kind of life that requires precision, discipline, awareness. Because real power is quiet, and so is real danger. And if you're not alert, if you're not grounded, you'll trade your future for something fake, something easy, something temporary. But you're not here to be temporary. You're not here to be forgettable. You're here to leave a mark, to build something that outlives you, to become someone. Even the dark has to respect. So don't slow down. Now. Don't second guess yourself now. Don't wonder if it was just coincidence. You know better. You feel it. You were meant to dodge that. You were meant to walk away. But walking away isn't the end. It's the beginning. Because now that you've seen how close it can get, how easily it can sneak in, you can't go back to being asleep. You can't go back to numbing yourself, to distracting yourself, to living like you've got all the time in the world. You don't. Every move counts now. Every moment matters. Every choice you make is either pulling you deeper into alignment or dragging you closer to the pit you just escaped. You want to stay free? You want to rise? Then you need to move like someone who just survived something deadly. Because you did. You need to carry yourself like someone who just walked out of a burning building. Because you did. You need to honor that instinct. Because it didn't just save your week. It might have saved your life. And the world is watching now. Not the surface level world, the deeper one. The one that watches the way you carry your soul. The one that tracks who you're becoming, not just what you're doing. So step right, speak right, move with clarity, because you've proven you're not just lucky, you're chosen. And chosen ones don't get to play small, not anymore. This wasn't a fluke. It was a warning and a blessing, wrapped together. So hold your ground, keep your eyes open, and remember this. The next time something doesn't feel right, the next time you hear that quiet inner pull, the next time you're standing at a crossroad, you'll know, you'll remember, and you'll choose the path that looks harder but feels true. Because the dark doesn't need to be loud to be real. And your instincts are the loudest weapon you've got. You see, survival is not just about avoiding the darkness. It's about learning to move through it without losing yourself. The darkness is relentless. It doesn't care about your dreams, your ambitions, or your heart. It simply is. It exists in the cracks, in the hesitation, in the moments you allow doubt to settle in. But what you did last week was a rebellion against that. You chose to move when others freeze. You chose to listen when others ignore. You chose to act when others stand still. And that is what separates the lost from the alive. There's a sacred power in that choice. It's a whisper in your soul that says, I refuse to be swallowed. And that whisper grows louder with every move you make toward your true path. Because the darkness isn't just around you, it's inside you too. It's the fear that tries to freeze your limbs, the doubt that tries to blind your vision, the lies that try to suffocate your voice. But that move you made was a strike against the internal war that rages within, a declaration that you will no longer be a prisoner of your own mind. Think about that for a second. The greatest battles you'll ever face won't be from outside threats. No, they will come from within. The dark thoughts, the self-sabotage, the temptation to settle for less than your potential. That's where the real danger lies. And the fact that you made that move, that you chose the hard way, means you're already fighting the fight others refuse to start. You've stepped into the arena, while most people are still sitting on the sidelines, too scared to face the shadows lurking in their own hearts. But here's the brutal truth. The darkness will not give up. It's patient. It waits for you to lower your guard, to get complacent, to forget the cost of one wrong step. It is a master of disguise, camouflaging itself as comfort, as safety, as love, as success. It will whisper to you, just this once, or it won't hurt this time, until you find yourself trapped in chains you don't even see. And the worst part? Once you're caught, it's nearly impossible to break free. That's why the move you made last week wasn't just important. It was life-saving. It was the firewall between you and a nightmare you might not have survived. But don't let that scare you into hesitation. Let it fuel you. Let it harden your resolve and sharpen your instincts. Because every moment after that move is another chance to strengthen the walls around your soul, to train your mind like a weapon, to build a life so fiercely yours that no darkness can ever reach it. You're not here by accident. You're here because you survived. You're here because the universe, fate, or whatever force you believe in has marked you for something greater. You were almost lost, but you found a way back. And now, the path forward is yours to claim. But it won't be easy. Nothing worth fighting for ever is. There will be moments when the darkness tests you again, when it tries to lure you back with promises of relief, of escape, of surrender. When that moment comes, remember the power of that one move. Remember how it saved you. Remember the fear that you felt when you realized just how close you were to losing everything. And then choose again. Choose life. Choose light. Choose the hard road, the narrow path, the one less traveled, because it's the only way to truly be free. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. And last week, you proved it. You proved that even when the darkness was ready to consume you, you found a spark inside that refused to be extinguished. That spark is your true power. Nurture it, protect it, let it grow until it burns brighter than any shadow that tries to dim it. This is your wake-up call. Not just to survive, but to thrive. Not just to move, but to move with purpose. Not just to live, but to live fiercely. Because the darkness is always waiting, but now, so are you. And the difference is that you know what's coming. You know how close it got, and you will never let it catch you off guard again. Your journey is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning. But now, armed with the knowledge of what nearly took you down, you carry a power most people never realize they have, the power of choice. Every time you choose yourself, every time you choose growth, every time you choose light over shadow, you are rewriting your destiny. So stand tall, stand fierce, stand ready, because the world needs your light now more than ever. And no darkness, no matter how dark, can withstand a soul on fire. Would you like me to keep expanding this, going even deeper into the psychological and emotional layers? Or would you want me to start layering in some vivid imagery, storytelling, or even practical advice woven into this dark motivational tone? You said, continue. ChatGPT, said, "Absolutely. Let's keep this energy flowing, diving even deeper into the shadows and the light that fights through them. There's a truth no one talks about. Sometimes the darkest moments don't scream, they whisper. They don't break you with force, but with silence. A quiet, creeping dread, a feeling that something is wrong, but you can't put your finger on it. That's exactly where you were last week, on the edge of that silence. And you moved, you acted. You chose to listen to that small voice inside that said, "Don't go there," or "Not this time." And in doing so, you pulled yourself back from a cliff that most people don't even see until it's too late. This is what separates you from the crowd. Not luck, not chance, but an instinct so finely tuned, it's almost supernatural. Because what you escaped was not just a bad situation or a mistake. It was a darkness that wants to consume everything you are. It's a force that feeds on hesitation, on self-doubt, on delay. It doesn't just want to stop you, it wants to erase you, your dreams, your future, your very existence as you know it. And yet, you didn't let it. You refused to become a victim to that shadow. That's the fight. That's the war every person with a purpose must fight every single day. The darkness doesn't take breaks. It's always waiting for the moment you let your guard down, for the moment you convince yourself that one slip won't matter. But it does. One slip is all it takes. One move in the wrong direction and the darkness pulls you under. But you chose differently. That one move you made was a firewall. It was a boundary you set between yourself and oblivion. And now, knowing how close it came, you have a choice to make. You can go back to living half asleep, ignoring that inner voice, pretending you're safe, or you can rise. You can become hyper-aware. You can become the hunter instead of the hunted. Because here's the raw truth. Once you've danced with darkness, you see the world differently. You understand how fragile everything really is. You see the masks people wear, the lies they tell themselves to keep going. You feel the weight of the silence between words. And you know that life is a battlefield, not just outside, but within. But the good news? You're not just surviving this battlefield, you're learning to conquer it. Every time you choose to listen to that whisper, instead of ignoring it, you build muscle. Every time you make a move to protect your spirit, you become stronger. And every time you remember what almost took you down, you sharpen your edge. This is the power of awareness, the power to say no when everyone else says yes, the power to walk away when everyone else stays, the power to trust yourself when doubt is screaming. That power saved you last week. It can save you again and again, because the dark forces that want to drag you down don't run out of tricks, but you're learning them all, one by one. Let this be your call to arms, to fight not with violence, but with vigilance, to fight not with anger, but with clarity, to fight not by running, but by standing firm. Because the darkness can be overwhelming if you face it unprepared, but it's powerless against someone who knows it's coming, someone who refuses to be caught off guard, someone who's already survived its worst. You are that someone. You made that move. You saved yourself. Now, it's time to live like you mean it, to protect that sacred flame inside you that no shadow can touch, to walk boldly into every tomorrow, knowing you're ready for whatever darkness dares to come. Because the truth is, the darkness is always coming. It's never gone. It's waiting in the corners of every decision, in the spaces between every word, in the silence of every moment. But you're here to prove it wrong, to prove that even when it's darkest, there is light. Even when it's silent, there is power. Even when it's near, there is escape. And that escape is your will, your instinct, your courage. Hold on to that. Guard it fiercely. And never forget that one move you made last week wasn't just luck. It was the first step in a war for your soul, and you just won the first battle. And now, here you are, breathing in the quiet aftermath of something that almost swallowed you whole. No one else will ever fully understand how close it was, how close you were, because on the surface, life still looks the same. The days pass, the world keeps turning, but you remember the weight that settled over your chest. You remember the unease. You remember how something just felt off. And more importantly, you remember the moment you didn't hesitate. You moved, not with full clarity, not with full certainty, but with something deeper, ancient, something primal inside of you that screamed louder than the silence around you. And that saved you. Understand this clearly now. You were being hunted, not by a person, not by a monster you could see with your eyes, but by something far worse, a slow, silent destruction, a version of your life where you sleepwalk forever, a version of your soul that dulls over time until nothing is left but routine, regret, and surrender. And the trap? It was already set, perfectly aligned. The timing, the temptation, the false opportunity, all of it. It was there, waiting for just one wrong move, one moment of carelessness, one step off the path, and then you didn't make that step. You didn't walk into it. You trusted the unease. You listened to the tension in your bones. You listened to that whisper deep inside your spirit, the one that said, "This is not for you, not this way, not now." That decision didn't just change your week, it changed your trajectory. And the thing is, you may never fully understand what you dodged. You may never get to see what would have happened had you said yes instead of no. You may never get to look that version of your life in the eye. And that's okay, because what you can see is what's ahead of you now. And that road, the one you're walking right now, only exists because you chose to stay aligned. So here's the truth you carry with you from this moment forward. You are no longer the person you were before that decision. You are no longer unaware. You are no longer vulnerable in the same way, because you felt the breath of something dark on your neck. And instead of freezing, you moved. That's power. That's awareness. That's spiritual warfare. And you won. But this win isn't the end. It's a warning. Because now you know the stakes. Now you know the price of one wrong move. Now you know how quickly your reality can shift. Without sound. Without warning. And that kind of knowledge, it's sacred. It's rare. It's dangerous. Because once you know what's out there, once you know what nearly got you, you can never go back to sleep again. You don't get to live carelessly anymore. You don't get to ignore your intuition. You don't get to keep pretending your choices don't matter. They matter. Every second, every step, every small decision. Because this isn't just about avoiding bad things. It's about building something true. Something that darkness cannot touch. Something that endures. And now that you've proven you can hear that voice, the one that lives underneath the noise, underneath the distractions, underneath the fear, you must honor it, feed it, strengthen it, because the world is only going to get louder and the shadows are only going to get smarter. But if you stay tuned in, if you keep choosing that higher road, no matter how lonely, no matter how unclear, you will keep escaping what was never meant for you. Let me remind you of something. There is a version of you that loses. There is a version of you that gets pulled into the trap, that says yes to the wrong thing, that stays in the wrong place, that trusts the wrong voice, that stops listening. But that's not who you are anymore. That version of you died the second you made that move, and the version that remains, the one still standing, the one reading this right now, that's a survivor, that's a fighter, that's someone becoming unstoppable. Not because the road is easy, not because you're fearless, but because you've already seen the edge and turned back in time. From now on, you carry that moment like a weapon. You carry that awareness like armor. Because next time, and there will be a next time, you'll be stronger, sharper, quicker to listen, slower to trust anything that doesn't feel right. You've already proven you can escape the jaws of something dark. Now it's time to rise and build something the dark cannot follow. Your purpose is too important. Your energy is too rare. Your story is not done. So walk forward, not in fear, but in full power, not in doubt, but with ruthless clarity, not wondering if you're protected, but knowing that you are dangerous to the darkness now. Because the shadows watched you walk away, and this time they missed. But next time, they'll be watching closer, waiting quieter, hiding deeper. But so will you, ready, alert, awake. Because now you know, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is make a single move at the right time, for the right reason, and change your entire fate. And that's exactly what you did. So remember this moment, honor it, and never stop moving forward. You saved yourself. You saved yourself.